Let's bring in Leland Vittert. He spent time overseas in Ukraine back in 2014 when Russia-backed militias were trying to take over parts of the country. Leland, you and I have spoken about this. Has the war ever ended? I mean, some are saying that it's going to be an invasion, but others are saying it never stopped.
Both can be true, right? And in the sense that since 2014, when President Putin sent in the same kind of hybrid warfare expeditionary forces that we're going to see and probably already are seeing in eastern Ukraine into Crimea and into what's called the Donbass, which is where sort of ethnic Russians traditionally live in Ukraine, and took those parts of the country over. There's been a low-scale war going on. And for anyone who thinks that we're going to see the pictures of D-Day, if you will, of tanks rolling across the Ukrainian border, and somebody's going to get on television and say the invasion has begun, it's not in anybody's interest to declare the invasion has started. If the United States declares the invasion has started, they admit failure. If the Russians say the invasion has started, well, then they admit that they're invading a sovereign country for no reason, effectively, other than Vladimir Putin wants to. And if the Ukrainians admit the invasion has begun, then all of a sudden their economy gets even worse than it is, and the president's even in a more untenable position than he is. So it's in everyone's position to keep up the charade that somehow that diplomacy is still an option, when in fact, if you watch the videos over the weekend from inside eastern Ukraine, they're still shelling every day. There's still attacks on Ukrainian military positions. The Russians continue to probe, and the Russian separatists, which is this group of militia inside eastern Ukraine, backed by the what was the KGB, now what's called the FSB or the GRU, Russian military intelligence, and their Green Berets, if you will. Those Russian separatists, these partisan militias, are already laying the groundwork for the formal Russian military to come in.
What is the difference between what you saw on the ground in 2014 and what we're seeing today with the history that we know about Ukraine?
Well, exactly. This idea of the hybrid warfare, right? And that you can have the sabotage operations, you have false flag operations where the Russians or the Russian militia shell one of their own cities and say, oh, that's the Ukrainians doing it to create a pretext for the Russian military to come in and bomb or to in some way take on the Ukrainians to protect Russians. All of these techniques have been something that the Russians have been working on since 2008. Information warfare, where they say that we have understanding that the Ukrainians are committing atrocities, therefore we have to come in, and here's pictures of it on Twitter, or here is pictures of a fuel line that have blown up. All of these techniques are things the Russians have been doing since 2014 and have just been getting better and better and better at. What has not been getting any better is the U.S. response to it, because they all require positive response and actually taking action against it by the United States and the Ukrainians. And neither the United States or the Ukrainians right now have the stomach to go toe-to-toe with the Russians on this.
So when it comes to the President Biden saying that he'll speak to Putin again if he doesn't invade, how strong is that statement? And does it mean that diplomacy is even an option at this point?
Well, the White House certainly sees value in continuing to talk about talking, and Vladimir Putin sees value in that too, because as long as he dangles this carrot to the United States that, look, I haven't invaded, even though I'm shelling and bombing Ukrainian cities, so long as you say I haven't invaded and I say I haven't invaded, then we can all talk. And Vladimir Putin knows that the United States and the American public place this huge value on the idea that diplomacy is still alive. Probably the better question is that why doesn't it come with a timetable or a demand from the United States of, we will sit down and talk if your forces are gone by March 1st, or if you've done X, Y, and Z to de-escalate the situation. The idea that we're always willing to talk sometimes can be seen as a weakness. You think about George H.W. Bush during Desert Storm, that set deadlines for Saddam Hussein that then meant something. And that's what you heard the Ukrainian Prime Minister in Joe Khalil's report talking about, the Ukrainian president saying, why haven't you already put these sanctions on? The idea simply that talking is somehow in a end rather than a means. Just look at Neville Chamberlain and Hitler. They had a number of very good summits and agreed to all sorts of things. We still got World War II.
The art of war. Thank you so much, Leland, for your time this morning, as always. And you can catch more with Leland Vittert tonight and every weeknight right here on NewsNation, 7 Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.